just fucking... No, I don't need that, though. I'll just drive him over.
Yeah.
Welcome to Season 1, Episode 9 of the All Talk Sports Show. Today, we're going to be talking about the NFL. We are, at this date, at this point in time, moving forward, we will only be talking about the NFL until we get to school. So we're done with the NBA for now after free agency is over and the teams are pretty much set for next season. Now we'll just be focused on the NFL. Training camp begins in a couple of weeks. So we're going to give today our division predictions. I have records for them. For the teams as well. Moving on, then we will talk about the pretenders and contenders, teams that we think can go into the playoffs and teams that we think could fail. Our way too early playoff teams, so our 6 teams from each conference. And then looking forward to Friday. Friday, we're going to be giving our power rankings for all 30 teams in the NFL and why. So today we're going to go division by division. First division is the AFC East. So I have the New England Patriots at 14-2. You know what to expect from them. It's going to be a little bit of time for the Patriots to gel. Without Gronk, going to be going with the tight end by committee. I think adding Damian Harris in the third round is big. You're going to take a little bit of work off Michelle, especially near the goal line. The defense, as we all know with New England, they get better as the year goes on anyways. So 14-2 is where I have that standing. I could really see 12, 13 wins as well. This is based off a website where you pick game by game and week by week. So in my eyes, I see them pretty much winning almost every game. Next, I have the New York Jets at 8-8. The Jets are getting better time again. They need Darnold to mature. You added a really good running back that's going to help Darnold improve his game. You added a good linebacker. Still very weak at the edge position at corner. And to compete with the stout defense, you really need a good lockdown corner. And I don't think Trumaine Johnson's the answer for that. Next, the Buffalo Bills at 6-10. They're oof. But Josh Allen, has a little bit more help around him. They added John Brown, Cole Beasley. A couple backs have a committee now. Then my Miami Dolphins, 13-3. Gonna have a quarterback controversy there. One of the worst rosters in the NFL this year. It's just not enough talent surrounding the quarterbacks that they have there. Now moving on, we'll go to the AFC North. Rick?
Okay, so for the AFC North, we have the Browns at 11-5. We have the Steelers at 10-6 right after that, and I want to bring that up so soon because I kind of do feel like it could go either way between the Steelers and the Browns. I feel like they could flip-flop at the top position. The Steelers being, a more established team and having guys there that have played with each other for a long time. They have Ben Roethlisberger, who's an established quarterback and has been in the league for, over a decade. I feel like the Browns are a very young, rather newer team, especially, seeing Baker Mayfield there now.
Yeah, adding Odell.
It's like a brand new team. The Steelers, we know, are established. I could see the Steelers in that top spot just as easily as the Browns. So we're going to move on to the AFC South. I'm going to turn it over to Frank.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
So we had the Baltimore Ravens at 7-9. A lot more teams are going to figure out Lamar Jackson in his second year. That's obvious. They got a lot worse in the front seven, losing Mosley. They also but they did add Earl Thomas to a pretty good secondary already with Marlon Humphrey at corner as well. Then we have the Bengals at 2-14. It's going to be a tough year for Cincinnati going forward, but the defense isn't great. So next, we're going to go to the AFC South. I have the Indianapolis Colts at 12-4. I think they are by far now the best team in this division. Andrew Luck, Eric Ebron, you got good pieces on your offense. You added Devin Funchess to take a little pressure off T.Y. The defense still needs work and time, but a lot of the young core is there, so just need some pieces around them. Next, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars at 9-7. Yes, I think the Jags will have a big turnaround from last season, adding Nick Foles. If the offensive line stays healthy, those guys are a bunch of maulers. Andrew Norwell is big there, but they need the line to stay healthy. They need to rely on Fournette. But Nick Foles is an actual quarterback, so that's going to help the Jaguars. The boat really didn't do much. Then I have the Texans at 7-9. I don't know if Jadeveon Clowney is going to start the season there. Their offensive line is once again absolutely brutal. Can they really rely on Lamar Miller to be a good starting running back in the NFL? Probably not. But a lot of these wins will be carried by obviously Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins. You still have J.J. Watt there, but your secondary is not great. You only have guys aging there like Kareem Jackson. So I'm going to say 7-9. Then I have the Tennessee Titans at 5-11. They're not a bad team, but I don't see how they got much better. We obviously know about their problems at quarterback because Mariota can't stay on the field for more than 5 games. And then you had Tannehill to come in as your backup. I don't really know how you're going to win football games. Now to the AFC West. This could be, in my eyes, one of the most top-heavy divisions in the NFL and one of the worst, like, bottom divisions. So, Rick?
Yeah, so we have the Chiefs 13-3, which is I could see why they have it as 13-3.
We all know why. Mahomes, Kelsey.
Now that Tyreek
Hill is going to be back.
Yep. Now you easily could get another 50 touchdowns out of Mahomes, something along those lines.
They're going to struggle at the running back position, but we'll see. I still think they're good enough, and I think honestly they lost D Ford, and they lost Eric Berry, but you got a guy like Frank Clark who's a little bit more consistent of a pass rusher than D Ford, and thanks to D Ford, Tom Brady it's a 6th ring. Just want to point that out. But Frank Clark has got to be a top 5, top 10 pass rusher in the NFL. We saw what he did with the Seahawks last year. I think he fits his scheme a little bit more with the Chiefs. And they also added Tyrann Mathieu, who I don't think is great, but he's definitely an upgrade in the secondary. So I think the Chiefs, obviously Mahomes' second year now, second year starting as a quarterback, a lot of teams are going to figure out, and game plan a little bit more for Mahomes and can continuously bring pressure at him. But I still think the Chiefs are good enough on offense. And I still think Mahomes is very much talented enough to win them 13 games this season. Yeah. But next, we have probably either the second or third or maybe 4th best team in the AFC. But since it's such a tough division, it's going to be hard for the Chargers to win it. But we have them at 12-4. The Chargers, in my eyes, could be one of the most balanced rosters in the NFL. You're pretty good at every single position. You have a guy like Derwin James in the secondary, arguably one of the best safeties in the league. Casey Hayward, who's been a good corner for a while. Then we got Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram up front. That's as dominant as any pass rushing duo in the NFL. Then on offense, you just Keenan Allen. We don't know if Melvin Gordon's going to be there, but you still have Phil Rivers. It's a half-decent offensive line. Mike Williams, who I think we saw emerge a lot last season, who's going to be an animal this season. Going to take a little pressure off Keenan Allen. Travis Benjamin in the slot. Eckler as your pass-catching running back. So you have a lot of pieces there. The defense needs to get a little bit better because they're very undersized at linebacker, and we saw them hurt them. That hurt them last season. But Desmond King also we got to mention, great returner, but also a really good slot cornerback. But now we're moving on to the Raiders. The team will be featured on Hard Knocks. I have them at 3-13. And I'm looking at this now, and I feel like they could have a little bit more wins. But this team is a disaster, and the locker room is also probably going to be a disaster, as we'll see on Hard Knocks. Perfect, Incognito, Antonio Brown. You got a bunch of loudmouths and a bunch of guys that only play for themselves. John Gruden's not really a good coach in the modern day NFL. He still goes back to the books and still running plays that he ran in the early 2000s with the Buccaneers. Like, come on, move on. And then I have the Broncos at 2-14. Another disaster. They're a lot worse than they are last year. Quarterback position still has a hole. John Elway, you'd think as their GM would bring in an actual quarterback. Still trying to beat around the bush and still trying to win like they did with Peyton Manning back then with a really below average quarterback and a good defense. Bradley Chubb and Von Miller are going to be good on the defensive end. Chris Harris, we don't know. Like, he'll be there, but he doesn't really want to play there. Emmanuel Sanders is good, but
they don't have a quarterback.
The quarterback position is just that you need a good quarterback to win games in the NFL, and that's the same thing with the Raiders. That's why I have them so low because I don't really know how consistent a play we're going to get out of Derek Carr.
I was going to say as well. I don't think Antonio Brown's really going to be a kicker for that team.
I mean, he's going to be productive.
He's going to help,
but he's not. I don't know.
Is he going to turn that team around?
No, not in 1 year.
Absolutely
not in 1 year's time. They'll be a little bit better than last year, but we'll see. Next, now on to the NFC. Right. We'll start with the NFC East.
NFC East, we're gonna go. We got Eagles 11-5.
I think one of the best offensive lines and then one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. They're really good in the trenches, and that's why I think they'll win games.
Excellently well-rounded team as well.
A lot of pressures on Carson Wentz, though. They moved on from Nick Foles after he carried them in the playoffs, and Wentz is coming back now. He hasn't been staying on the field really much lately, but it's all the pressure's on Wentz now. No, he's got to perform. It's his time now. You added you brought Jackson back. He has all the pieces around him on offense. Jeffrey, Jackson, Aguilar, Ertz. They added Jordan Howard, Miles Sanders in the draft. He's got a good backfield committee. So there's no reason why the Eagles can't win at least 11 games. Next, we have the Dallas Cowboys, 10-6, a playoff team.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know
I think so.
how good they are. They have a little bit of trouble contract situations right now with Dak and Zeke. I think that could boil over into the season a little bit. Got to get their cornerstones locked up. And Rick, what do you want to bring out here?
All right, so I think with the Cowboys, a lot of things we saw was Zeke not getting a lot of carries last season, and he would only get maybe 11 or 12 carries per game. It wouldn't be that productive, but games where he was carrying the ball 20 times, he was rushing 20 times, the team would win by multiple scores. They seemed much more productive even in the passing game and in the running game, giving Zeke those balls. I feel like also now with Cooper, I think
Cooper for a full season is
Yeah.
going to be a little bit more effective.
What did he have, 900 yards?
Almost, yeah.
Yeah.
900 yards.
That's going to be pretty scary, honest to God. Their defense is good, but nonetheless, I feel like it also relies a lot on Dak Prescott. He's started his career very well, but in the past years it's kind of dwindled a little bit. I think now that he has a good receiver, kind of has somebody now to throw to as well, show up his arm a little bit, but I do think he needs to give the ball to Zeke. All right.
Next, we have the Giants at 6-10. Obviously, no Odell, no Olivier Vernon. They're going to struggle a lot defensively because of the pass rushers. They don't really have good pass rushers on the edge for the 3-4. Offense, I don't think will be that much of a drop-off, to be honest with you. I think they got a little bit better on offense, maybe. You can argue they added Kevin Zeitler, who's been an all-pro before at right guard. And you added Golden Tate, who I think is good. As we've seen in the past, teams don't really need a star receiver to win. So Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, and hopefully Corey Coleman continues to revive his career for that offense. And then obviously Barkley can expect something like we saw last year out of him. Hopefully, maybe he'll go over 2,000 all-purpose yards this season. We'll see. But I think quarterback, we'll see Eli probably start off the year for the Giants. And then, the Giants honestly have an easy schedule to start off the season. So if Eli performs well, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him go throughout. But starting off easy, and if they're winning games, they have a lot of winnable games early on. If Eli can win them games, I don't see a reason why he won't be starting.
Next, we have the Redskins at 4-12.
I mean, they have a good defense. A lot of guys are overpaid on that defense. Josh Norman, Landon Collins. But they've had a lot of injuries in the past, and not consistently enough play from the offensive line is going to be a struggle this year. Trent Williams is not reporting to camp. You lost one of your backups, Neshke, to the Bills, who was a really good lineman for them. And, their line is only aging, so it's, getting worse and worse each year. And then quarterback, you have quarterback controversy because you drafted Haskins and you signed Keenum, and you have Colt McCoy still there in the building. So you have, two quarterbacks. Who's going to start? Jay Gruden said he wants to win games now, but are either of them ready enough to win them games now? Probably not. Next, the NFC North. This could arguably be one of the best divisions in football. I have the Bears at 13-3. I think this team is going to be right up there with the best. With the best. I think Trubisky is going to progress a little bit. I think getting Jordan Howard out there would be a good thing for the team because they won't need to force a running back to get touches. David Montgomery coming in from Iowa State is going to be just as productive for them, honestly. Then we have the Packers at 11-5.
I think the Packers are going to be a lot better this year than they were last year. Now Aaron Rodgers not really being injured. I like to see him throw the ball to Devontae Adams a lot more. I think Devontae Adams is an absolute monster on the field, and I want to see a lot. If they give the ball to Aaron Jones a lot, that'll also be a big part of their offense. Aaron Jones had a really good season last season.
And Aaron Rodgers has vouched for Aaron Jones in the past. So
yeah, Aaron Jones is going to be a key part of that
consistency out of the
offense.
running back position for the Packers hasn't been something we've seen in a while for this team, and I think that's going to only help Rodgers more. The receivers besides Adams aren't great. So,
but nonetheless,
but having Aaron
yeah.
Jones come on, and then you still have a pretty solid offensive line. The defense got better. You added Gary, Preston Smith, Darnell Savage. So your defense definitely got better. So,
but barring any injuries this season, I do think the Packers are going to have a phenomenal season. Next, we got the Vikings at 9-7. Frank?
I mean, Minnesota with Kirk Cousins, can they get into the double-digit win column? Maybe, possibly, but it's not the same team that they had back 2 years ago. The defense was a little inconsistent last season. Besides Daniil Hunter, Everson Griffin was there for the whole time. Xavier Rhodes wasn't as consistent lockdown self. So, I mean, the Vikings could get it together, but the quarterback play is really going to, struggle, make that team struggle. Kirk Cousins isn't consistently good enough on a week-to-week basis for them, and it's not going to always go out there and play half-decent football to win your team games.
What do you expect out of Stephon Diggs this season?
I mean,
not much.
Usual. I mean, Diggs is kind of like one of those guys. It's every some games really good, some games really poor. I think Dalvin Cook's going to be good this season. And last year with Murray and Cook, kind of back and forth. Cook getting injured. They moved on from Murray, so I think Cook, back healthy, he's going to be a really good running back for them this season. But I still don't think that's going to take a lot of pressure off Cousins because the line isn't great. So I still 9. I could see them winning 8 games. I don't see them going over 9 games though, probably. Next, the Detroit Lions. Although the Lions got better this offseason, they're really not well coached in my eyes. The defense is still going to struggle. Especially in the middle at the linebacker position, they're really weak there. Offensive line isn't great. You got a backfield by committee. They can't even let Kerryon Johnson, their rookie, who's clearly the best back there, control the backfield because they're signing C.J. Anderson, still have Theo Riddick looming over his head. Matt Stafford, hopefully if he's healthy, this offense could be good. But you got 2 decent receivers, and then you got Amendola in the slot, Galladay, who's taking a big step up. I think he will again this year. He should be their number 1 receiver, and then Marvin Jones. This team could have potential to win a couple more games, but I think it's all relying on Matt Stafford staying healthy and the defense playing consistently enough under Patricia.
All right, we're going to move on to the NFC South now, and we're going to start it off with the Saints at 12-4. I could see them going 13-3 or somewhere around there. I definitely think 12-4 will be the worst record they have. Obviously, tremendous offensive weapons. Drew Brees is their quarterback. A good defense as well. That's a huge key. And good coaching. Just all around phenomenal team. You saw what they did last year. They played out of their minds. I think this team has, potential this year to make a great run in the playoffs again. Frank, what do you think?
I mean, I think with no Ingram now, they'll rely a little bit more on Kamara. You added Latavius Murray, which is good for the backfield. I still think they're going to, besides Michael Thomas at receiver, they're going to need a little bit of help there. So, we'll see, but I think 12 wins is definitely realistic for the Saints. Trying to make another run in the playoffs, you try and get every ounce of football left out of Drew Brees and possibly win a ring. Next, I have the Atlanta Falcons at 9-7. The Falcons also kind of split up their backfield. Kevin Coleman moving on. Going to have Devontae Freeman. Hasn't been healthy over the past couple of seasons, which has really hurt them. Julio Jones is still there. We know we're going to get from him. Calvin really took a big step last year for me. And Sanu, they have a really good receiving core, but
that depends on how Matt Ryan performs.
Pass rush isn't great either. And secondary is not great. You have 2 really good players on your defense, but not consistent enough pass rush.
I think, honest to God, I feel like Matt Ryan plays quarterback with a blindfold on.
I don't know. I mean, Matt Ryan's good, but it's not consistent.
He's good, but
they lose so many, winnable games. And the thing with Matt Ryan is with those 3 great receivers,
now with
you
the 3
shouldn't really
receivers,
have to, worry about anybody else. Last season,
Ryan, he knows he has 3 good guys he could throw to, and not have to, just chuck the ball up to Julio, who's in triple coverage every single play. I think that takes a lot of pressure off of Matt Ryan. I think that will help them this year. I think, those winnable games you're talking about, if the defense stays strong, which God knows, the offense I feel like will be a little more consistent when they're throwing the ball. As for the running game, that strictly depends on whether Devonta Freeman's healthy, but in terms of offense, I think with those 3 receivers, that'll be a huge help for them.
Yeah, they don't have a great line, though, so
exactly.
The Falcons will be one of those middle-tier teams.
We're going to move on to the Panthers next, and we have them going 5-11. Frank, what do you think?
I just think Cam Newton's shoulder still it's never been the same. They're gonna rely again so much on Christian McCaffrey. He's gonna touch the ball 30 times a game, which is ridiculous. It's not really sustainable.
It's not good for him. It's injury. Right
Receiver, you're going to struggle. You got Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore. You don't have, you lost Funchess, who was probably your most consistent receiver. Greg Olsen has had health issues. Your offensive line is getting worse. I just don't see this team winning that many games. You're still going to have Kuechly there in the middle, but you're not great in the secondary. You're not great up front. So I don't see anything crazy here.
I feel like
you're decent up front because you have Kawan Short and you did out of McCoy, but it's nothing special there for them.
What do you think? They'll probably sneak a win, 1 or 2 wins in against some good teams. Other than that, I think they'll beat a bunch of trash.
All right, next we have the Bucks going 4-12. Added Bruce Arians, to new coach. No Fitzpatrick, so Jameis Winston. I think the offense is not going to be horrible. Winston, Edwins, Godwin, O.J. Howard. You have good pieces around you on offense. They're really struggling to find consistent running back play since Doug Martin's actually was decent for them back in the day. Jameis Winston, not consistent enough a deep ball thrower. It really hurts them. So we'll move on to the NFC West. I have the Rams at 14-2. Basically the same team as last season. You added 2 good veterans, though, to your defense with Eric Weddle and Clay Matthews. Corey Middleton's going to be your main middle linebacker now. I think that they have a good core there. The pass rushing is going to be there. A little bit more consistent play out of Dante Fowler would be good. But you still have Aaron Donald, Defensive Player of the Year there. Going to be up there. Getting Cooper Kupp back for the full season is going to be really good for the offense.
Yeah, monster season last season.
I think Darnell Henderson's going to be an underrated guy that they added because they're not going to rely so much on Gurley because of his knee. But the offense is still going to be great with Woods, Kupp, and Cooks.
That's interesting though with Gurley. I mean, if they lock down even a half decent running back, that's a Super Bowl win right there.
We'll see.
And I feel like they're kind of lacking in that position, but that's just because they're stepping down from Todd Gurley, who was, when he was healthy consistently was one of, if not the best running backs in the league. But nonetheless, we're going to move on to the 49ers, who we have going 9-7. And
this is one of those teams I think is going to make a big jump. Having Garoppolo there for the full season.
I'm excited to see him.
I'm a firm believer in Kyle Shanahan. I think that adding Deebo Samuel to an offense with Goodwin, Andy Isabella, who I think is going to be a really good slot receiver. Oh, no, my bad. Not Andy's, but Trent Taylor. Added Tevin Coleman. You're going to get McKinnon back for a full season, so you're going to have actual consistency out of a running back position with McKinnon and Coleman. The defense, pass rush, front seven only getting better. Adding Joey Bosa in the draft. The offensive line is decent. You added the offensive line is decent. Not great, but I think Garoppolo for a full season now, going into an offseason healthy, I think the Niners are going to be one of those underrated teams. They seem to win a lot of games. Last year, we didn't expect them to win. You still have George Kittle, a top tight end, probably going to be their main focus on offense. But the offense has so many pieces around it, and we saw what Kyle Shanahan did a couple years back with the Falcons, with Coleman and Freeman, with Julio, with Sanu. So I think that they can have a really, really high-powered offense, but they need Garoppolo to stay healthy.
Yeah, I'm really excited, like I said before, to see him play a full season. I think Marquise Goodwin's going to be a big target. Also, I think George Kittle is going to be huge for that offense. Absolutely enormous. Kind of putting his foot in the door last season, having the best season as a tight end. One of, if not the best seasons as a tight end.
And last year, he didn't even have consistent quarterback play. With any of those quarterbacks that were playing last season for the Niners, George Kittle continued to perform.
Well, I think that shows now. They found, their primary target there on offense. He can seemingly do it all. I think that team's going to – I think 9-7 is fair, but you never know. They might be able to sneak in another 2 wins. Moving on, next we have
Seattle
Seahawks.
They lost Frank Clark, as I said earlier, too. And then now Jaron Reed, their second best defensive lineman, suspended for 6 games. Secondary's not great. Bobby Wagner really carries that defense. Russell Wilson, same thing on offense. You lost Doug Baldwin. But Russell Wilson's going to win them games that you're not going to expect him to win, and that's why they're going to probably end up around middle of the pack. We didn't expect that last year for them to make the playoffs, and they did. Russell Wilson with his magic, one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL, is going to carry them to win football games. So next, we'll move on to the Cardinals. We have at 1-15. They probably won't go 1-15 realistically, but if you're picking games right now, I don't see them winning more than 1 or 2 games. I think this offense is actually going to be, possibly decent. You have good players on your offense. Kyler Murray now, no Josh Rosen, nothing to worry about with Cliff Kingsbury in there and their new system. The defense is not good at all. Patrick Peterson, I don't know. We don't even really know if he wants to be there. So 1-15, I wouldn't be surprised if they win 2, 3, maybe even 4 games.
Who do you think this team relies the heaviest on this season upcoming?
Cardinals?
Yeah.
I mean, the consistent quarterback play, because they didn't get that last season at all from Josh Rosen. Kyler Murray is going to be hopefully a little bit more consistent for them. It's a newer system with Kingsbury there, Christian Kirk, Fitzgerald, Isabella, and then hopefully David Johnson has one of those seasons like we've seen him have before, where he's productive both receiving and rushing. The offensive line is still very weak though, that's the problem. A lot of these teams are adding targets around the quarterbacks, but your offensive line is the beef of your offense. Your offensive line is good. Your offense will run. And, that's why the Cardinals are going to be at the bottom at the end of the day. Next, we're going to give our way too early playoff teams for the AFC and for the NFC. So we're going to start with the AFC. I have the New England Patriots as the number 1 seed. And then Rick and I also have the Chiefs as the number 2 seed. Colts, Browns, Chargers. But we have a little switch. At the 6th spot, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I have the Jaguars.
And he has the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, besides that, we could see at the bottom of the AFC, the Jets could possibly sneak in there. I'm pretty sure we're both locked into the Chargers being the fifth, first wild card team. Possibly the Ravens, Jaguars, Texans.
I don't know about the Ravens. I could see the Texans.
There's a lot of teams.
It's right in the middle. They could go either way. But like we said, picking games. Like I said about the Steelers, I could see them winning more games, but at the same time, no Le'Veon Bell, no Antonio Brown, arguably the best running back in the league, the best receiver in the league. What does that do to your team? I mean, obviously they kind of cut out a piece of cancer on that team with Antonio Brown, but
they already played without Bell last year.
Yeah, well, obviously with James Conner, he performed incredibly. But as for Antonio Brown, I mean, they're losing a generational talent there. It's going to hurt that team. I really do think it is. I don't think Juju is going to be able to do what Antonio Brown did.
As a number 1 now.
Yeah, no. In that case, I do think the Jaguars, with Nick Foles there, being a new leader, I think they had the potential, but they didn't get what they needed last year. I think Nick Foles is going to bring that. That's why I have them in at the bottom. And, Frank, we're on NFC.
Okay, so we have the Rams, Bears, Saints, Eagles, and then Packers and Cowboys. But for the NFC, I really think the wild card is a lot more wide open than the AFC. We could have a team like the Minnesota Vikings. We can have a team like the Atlanta Falcons. We can have teams like the Niners and Seahawks. The NFC for the 5 and 6 seeds are going to be struggling. Teams are going to be in a huge race towards probably down to week 17, like we see. A lot down for those 5th and 6th wildcard spots for division wins. In the NFC North, we got the Bears and the Packers, 2 teams. NFC East, Cowboys and Eagles. I mean, we have two. We're going to have 2 divisions that are going to be fighting up there. So, but we both have the Cowboys in now as a 6th seed, and the Packers as the 5. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw 2 other teams there, though, to be totally honest with you. Next, we're going to give our pretenders and contenders. So, for the Cowboys, I would say pretender or contender, and Rick, you can give me an answer. For the Dallas Cowboys,
I think it's very clear contender. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, contender.
We saw what they did last year, winning a playoff game against Seattle with their formula.
Winning a playoff game.
With their formula of Dak and Zeke, Zeke carrying the offense, touching the ball 20, 25 times is when they're obviously at their best. They were 1 game away, from being in a game that really mattered. So, I'd give them a contender for that reason with the young defense that was really, really good last season. Probably a top 5 defense in the NFL.
I mean, it's just crazy to see because when they give Zeke the ball and Zeke's on the sidelines arguing, give me the ball more. And when he gets the ball more, he performs. It's clear to see he performs. That takes an enormous amount of pressure off of Dak Prescott throwing the ball. But now that he has Amari Cooper, that also gives him a huge target to throw to. That's why I think not only contender, I think they could make a deep run. Oh, we got the Packers next. Frank?
I'll consider them a contender because of their quarterback. I think with Aaron Rodgers, any team that, he'll be quarterbacking, I think can contend. Just because of the sole factor that in the playoffs, the quarterback that you have on your team really matters. We saw that this season. The Rams quarterback isn't that great, and that's why they fell short at the end. The Packers with Rodgers, their young defense they got a lot better. That defense got a lot better, and if they're consistent and Rodgers is healthy, I think that they're a contender. Next, moving on to the Cleveland Browns, Rick, would you consider them a pretender or a contender?
Okay, I think that they're a pretender. However, down the line, they could easily be a contender. So I say pretender specifically because it's a brand new team. I'm not a fan of Odell. I think that, however, with this new team, he will kind of learn his role a little bit better and kind of slide into a groove where he's not going to be begging for the ball. He knows Baker's going to let it fly to him. I think they'll mesh a lot better, but there's no telling how they will perform their first year. Bunch of new players. That's why I'm having them as pretender now. But
new head coach who was a running backs coach last year.
Yeah.
Then an interim offensive coordinator and now a head coach. It's a lot of responsibility to take on when you have to control a whole locker room of 53 guys, especially with Odell, Baker Mayfield, and Jarvis Landry in that locker room.
Well, I forgot to mention Jarvis Landry as well. But what do you think? Contender down the line as well, even next year?
Possibly, but I don't know. I would like to see them win meaningful games. I want to see them beat an actual team that's competitive, not just a bunch of teams that they're supposed to beat.
See, I'd rather not watch them win a sloppy game. I'd like to see them play like a solid game of football where it's not just relying on overpowering offense or something like that to win a game. I'd like to see them play sort of a strategic game of football, kind of more so counter specific players on the other roster rather than relying on, just letting it fly down the field or heavily on Odell or Jarvis Landry or, something like that.
I'm going to say contender, definitely. I think this could be the best team in the NFL. Honestly saying that, they got easily a top 3 defense, I think. You get Khalil Mack, Eddie Jackson back in the secondary, Kyle Fuller, who might be one of the most underrated corners in the NFL. And then, I think Trubisky's going to take hopefully a step up on this offense this year. Like I said, no pressure of giving Jordan Howard the football. Matt Nagy, another year with him and Trubisky. I think that the Bears are definitely a contender, especially if they can get home field advantage. Next, we're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Rick, would you consider them a pretender or a contender?
I'm going to have them as a pretender. Like I said before, I just think that losing Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, I don't want to ramble on about things I just said 5 minutes ago, but losing that talent, a lot of guys on that team can't pick up what they're losing here. James Conner's going to perform, or Antonio Brown's going to Juju's going to perform, but will they be able to perform at the same level? No. That's why I think they're going to be a pretender, and they're definitely not going to be.
And their defense is not the same.
Yeah.
Ever since they lost Shazier, the middle linebacker position has been struggling. Don't have consistent enough play from corners. So, the team's really just a mess. Next, Rick, the Minnesota Vikings. Would you consider them a pretender or a contender?
I'm going to say pretender as well. I just think that they're going to lack a lot of consistency on offense.
It's from the quarterback position and from the offensive lines. No joke.
I think that Diggs is not going to really be getting the stats, and he's going to be putting up the numbers that everyone thinks he will be able to put up. Not to say he's not a bad talent. He's phenomenal.
They struggle when Thielen plays outside. They don't have a consistent enough third receiver. Thielen's obviously the best in the slot. And we saw that last year with Treadwell is not a good enough third receiver. They need a better third receiver to add to that core. It's the offense is too heavily reliant on giving Thielen and Diggs the ball, but Cook back, Kirk Cousins isn't good enough. The line's horrible, and the offense last year seemed like so basic. When they lost Pat Shurmur, they were winning more games with Case Keenum at quarterback than they are with Kirk Cousins, who's getting paid $90 million. So, moving on now to Philadelphia Eagles. Pretender or contender? I'm going to say contender, obviously. I think that points to everyone. They were a top 5 offensive line, top 5 defensive line. And I think that's very important. Get to the quarterback, protect your quarterback. They have some decent pieces on defense around, their front 7. They're going to struggle in the secondary. Malcolm Jenkins carries a lot of that. But on offense, you got Wentz. You got a good group of running backs. You got a good group of receivers. And obviously a good tight end. So this team could really be legit. This is another team that I'd like to see play at home. I think home field advantage is big for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I could definitely see them winning more than 11 games, like I said earlier. But I can also see it go south with Carson Wentz getting injured, but have Nick Foles this season.
That's something I was going to add.
It's just we don't know. We got to see this guy stay on a field for a full season, and he's got a lot of pressure on them this season. Probably the most out of any quarterback in the NFL he has. So that's going to be it for today. Season 1, Episode 9. We'll be back on Friday. We're going to give 1 through 30 in the NFL, our power rankings for the upcoming season, and reasoning why. We have those teams there, and we'll also touch on records, updated records that we have for some teams, additions and departures that they had in the offseason, and that we'll touch on all that on Friday. But for now, ciao.